Hi, welcome back to Not So Obvious Watches. I'm Pete McConville. Quick video today, not really a standalone video, it's an adjunct to the video I did a few days ago, looking at the 5 big features or 5 big issues I saw disrupting the watch industry today. Quickly, what I saw as the major disruptions were the internet and social media and all of what that meant for the relationship between designers and brands and manufacturers and ultimately customers, changes in supply chain, changes in media. I also saw that there were big changes in fashion and design and what that meant in terms of watches and the changing relationship between what we expected in terms of craftsmanship of building a watch versus the art and design of building something that's pleasant to look at. I looked at the relationships between watch companies and watches and gender, and I believe that changes to the way that the two genders wear watches, consider watches, and the way that brands think about gender will massively disrupt the watch industry moving forward. I also said geography. We're getting new buyers from new areas and new demographics, and that's going to change tastes and styles. And finally, I spoke about the obvious one of smartwatches and wearable tech. After all of that, the consistent comment that came back was, what about microbrands? Why haven't I mentioned microbrands as a disruptive influence that's shaping the industry? I didn't forget microbrands. I left them out deliberately, and I left them out because I don't believe they are a first order disrupting effect. I think that they're a second order effect. And what I mean by that is microbrands are a result of those things I mentioned. The emergence and rapid development of microbrands, yes, it is disrupting the industry, but it hasn't burst out of nowhere. Microbrands have come about because of the major disruptions that I've spoken about. People have always wanted to create new watch brands. Go back in time, we didn't have an industry fully formed with all of the brands that we're now familiar with open on day one. For the past 150 odd years that we can trace the line of wristwatches, there have been new brands coming along day in, day out. Over the last couple of years in the pre-internet phase, we saw Bell & Ross and Frederic Constant and Marcel Lacroix. So these companies have always grown. So the desire to want to create a new brand and build it isn't new. What has happened is all of those things I spoke about, an increased focus upon design, an increased focus on the look of a watch, combine that with the emergence of Instagram, combine that with the new supply chains and the new media chains that the internet makes available, combine that with more and more women looking at buying kind of genderless watches, whilst at the same time a lot of these microbrands creating kind of genderless watches themselves for that new demographic. Combine all of those features and then you start to see that there's a very fertile ground for microbrands. So microbrands haven't burst out of the ground, fully formed to sit alongside the internet and social media and new supply chains and new ways of managing shipping and so forth. Rather, microbrands are simply the latest incarnation of the desire of people to create watches all the time, but vastly facilitated by the real disruptors in the marketplace. And so another look at the effect of those things that I was talking about, the internet, social media, etc., hasn't just affected microbrands themselves, but has also allowed a few very old, quite large, very canny, but almost defunct brands to re-emerge as new, almost cult favorites amongst the watch community, whilst at the same time having an impact on the overall watch market far in excess of all of the little enthusiast brands we can imagine. And the brand I'm talking about here is Timex. Timex has not made huge changes. It hasn't built massive factories suddenly recreating American manufacture. It hasn't done anything really interesting from a horological point of view over the last couple of years. What it has done is acted like a massive micro brand. It has taken on all of the lessons, it has learnt all of the lessons that Microbrands, and then applied those lessons on a massive scale. So you get a little company like Laurier or Avig or Undone and those guys, and they're trying to create some buzz. They're trying to create some enthusiasm for their watch, and so they have teaser campaigns on Instagram. They get people talking about it. They get the watch media, particularly us, the enthusiast media, kind of talking about it, and then they hope to sell 100, 200, 1,000 watches. Timex have done exactly the same thing, but just added an order of magnitude to all of those numbers. So whether it's the Q Timex or whether it's the Marlin, the original one or the later one, what they've done is followed the Microbrand playbook, taken advantage of those larger disruptive factors, and essentially relaunched, reshaped their brand. And Fossil is doing exactly the same with Zodiac, a largely defunct brand, which is now acting like a massive micro brand, and with all of the huge industrial force behind it of Fossil. So that's kind of why I didn't pick micro brands as a disruptor in themselves. I think they're just a sign of the disruption of the market that's coming from these big kind of more seismic changes in supply chains and customer relationships. That's my thought. That's why I didn't include them, didn't forget them. I just think that they're a second order effect. If you disagree, put it down below. If you think I've misread the market, leave me a comment. If you wait a little while, a card's going to come up with my my contact details. If you want to see what I wear on a day-to-day basis, or if you want to see more about just little snippets of my life, go check out my Instagram and follow me there. That would be great. If you want to get in contact with me, you can either DM me through Instagram or you can email me. There'll be an email address at the top. I often forget to do my wrist checks, so if you want to see what I'm wearing on a day-to-day basis, go check me out on Instagram. But since I remembered, today I am wearing my little Boulder, I think it's the Ventura, the little titanium quartz model. It's been a day of mucking around the house and just doing housework, and this is a perfect little beta watch for it. I really should do a review on this soon. So that's it. Oh, please like this video if you liked it. Even if you don't like it because it helps me out. Subscribe to the channel, and you'll see more of this sort of content about the watch media and the watch industry from a slightly different view, and giving some ideas, trying to help people think about watches and this hobby in a slightly different way. I've been Pete McConville. This has been Not So Obvious Watches, and we'll see each other later. Bye.